Hello summoners, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to do top 10 regeneration characters in Marvel Contest of Champions. And regeneration was obviously the biggest criteria on the rankings here, but it was not the only criteria. That is why a character like King Groot, who has some great regeneration sustainability, still didn't make the list, because I don't think he is that usable in endgame content. Like I know Brian uses him a lot in map 7 and acid washes lanes, and he has some uses, but his attack is really bad right now, and maybe if he gets buff. But regeneration wise he's still solid, but I didn't want to put him in a top 10 list, to be honest. So starting with the actual list, at number 1 we have Blade, who is still a regeneration god if you have him awakened. With Blade, you can actually, like, he's the only character I think where you can control your power meter so well. Like if you accidentally get to your SP3, you can just hold the block a bit, get back to the SP2. He still has some solid utility. I have him at 565 at 6200, and the regeneration is pretty crazy. I will try to include a clip here, but he regenerates like 840 I think per tick, so that's more than 1600, almost 1700 healing every single second, which is pretty insane to think about if you consider how much level 4 potions heal and stuff. So yeah, that is why he was considered to be one of the cheapest options for Labyrinth at one point. Even when you don't have danger sense, yeah, it's going to be a long fight, but because you can just heal up every single time, he was a pretty decent option for it. And now, like, he is not the character he used to be. He used to be the best character in the game, and now he's still pretty good. With danger sense he has a pretty good damage output, and if the opponent isn't immune to bleed, then also he has a decent damage output. Mostly my 565 stays on the bench, but he isn't the most terrible defender either, and the regeneration is definitely huge with him. Then at number 2 we have Black Widow Voyant, who is one of my favorite characters in the game. I've said this like multiple times. I run Suicide Masteries almost all the time, and she is incredibly if you have been playing the game for a while, then before I think 12.0, her regeneration worked like Ghost Rider's regeneration, in the sense like it's directly proportional to the damage you do. So with the Suicide Masteries, with recoil, you just do a lot more damage. You end up healing a lot. Like you can just take I use her in AQ all the time, and sometimes I get her down to 20% and just heal back to 100% in 2 special 2s with the bleed phase, in the bleed like curse of blood I think, yeah. And if you don't want the regeneration, if you are topped off already, then you can just move to power control or some extra damage. You get to choose that, so I really like that as well. So that is why she is the number 2. And unlike the number 3, Blade and Clairvoyant both have like guaranteed regeneration when you want it. Like with Blade you just hold block, with Claire you use your SP3 in the correct mode, you get regeneration. With Wolverine, that is the reason he's slightly down, and that is a big reason why X23 is pretty down in the list. They have great regeneration, all the Wolverine stats. Even Old Man Logan now with the Sabertooth synergy I think can heal really well. But with Wolverine and X23, especially with Wolverine, like there will be times you will have like 3 stacks of regeneration, but then there will be time when you desperately want the regen and you don't proc it. So that is why it is slightly RNG dependent, not as much as Scarlet Witch. Like Scarlet Witch is just a different level of RNG dependent. Sometimes you always get 2 stacks of regeneration when you don't want it, and when you are like really down, then you never proc it. That's the way she works for me, at least right now. But yeah, Wolverine still really solid. We saw some 565 gameplay. I have it on the channel if you want to check that out. Damage output wise he is pretty weak at 565. Can do some decently damage actually, but not the best damage wise, but really good sustainability wise. Doesn't have the biggest health pool, so if you get really low, if you take some actual hits in Act 6, then he might end up dying. Then at number 4 we have Omega Red, who is arguably in all of these characters the most powerful character in general. The regeneration aspect of him is you can get some, if you're running Suicide Masteries, he will regenerate from the bleed. So that is pretty nice if you have willpower, and especially if you have Coagulate maxed out. So yeah, that's regeneration in every single fight like Corvus. But on top of that, you can regen a decent amount from the SP1 and the SP3, and it stays topped off with him quite easily. So that is why he's at number 4. Then number 5 is quite a different character altogether. She isn't like any other character on the list. She doesn't get if you get hit, she doesn't get any regeneration. She gets regeneration on her block, which is pretty huge in endgame. That is the biggest thing. You usually don't just straight up take a lot of combos in a fight. When you are in the end game, you usually get chipped down from the block damage, and yeah, you make some mistakes here and there, maybe miss an intercept or two, get a few hits, but it's usually the block damage, especially these days in Lance 4 and stuff, and Act 6, the way it is, if you get hit, you just basically die. It doesn't matter how good you regenerate. There are some cheat death characters who technically you can say they are regeneration characters as well. Like Mephisto, Phoenix, Nick Fury, but still. So regeneration on the block is just extremely powerful. I have a guide on her. You can see some map 7 and highest mini boss gameplay. She gets down to 20-30% and just way back to 80% instantly. So yeah, she's incredibly powerful. Then we have Morningstar at number 6, and once you build her up, when you have her at 5 souls, she has a pretty good chance to lifesteal. It also depends on the damage she does, I guess. But once you get her to 5 souls, it's not like every hit you are lifestealing, but it's pretty consistent. You end up being topped off usually. So really powerful regeneration. She is one of the best options for incursion in the entire game. And then at number 7. No wait, number 6. One second. Number 7. So we have Dr. Voodoo, who in the start of every fight he just has a lot of regeneration. The only thing that hurts Voodoo is the lack of immunities, in my opinion. Otherwise, he's pretty solid still. Solid amount of power control, really good regeneration. The fact that it happens in the start of every single fight. And it's pretty decent amount of healing. I don't remember percentage wise, I don't play Voodoo right now a lot, but I think it's a decent amount, 20% of the health I want to say, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a pretty good regeneration. And unless you make a really huge mistake, in which case you can you can potion up. But the big thing here is, again, it's guaranteed. Every fight in the start you will get the regeneration, unless there is a heal block or something. Then at number 8 we have Ghost Rider, who, if you build him up correctly, get the other judgment first, he can have some really strong regeneration with the heavy attack, and go from 1% to 100% in that duration of one heavy attack. So really powerful that way. Otherwise, he's still pretty decent. The damage output holds him back, but otherwise still a great character. Then at number 9 we have X-23, basically Wolverine with more damage but less regeneration. That's basically what she is. In endgame content, I think she's better than Wolverine right now, because Wolverine's damage is kind of really low. Then at number 10 we have the newly updated Hulkbuster, who if you have him awakened, he can get some pretty crazy regeneration, and it's basically the Iron Man kind of regeneration. The percentage wise is pretty high, but it's low on the list because he gets it when he goes down to a certain amount of health, and at that point you are not really safe. If you mess up at that time, you could end up dying and stuff. So not the most sustainable character, I'd say, especially in punishing content like Act 6 in his current state, but still some solid regeneration there. So that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Subscribe to this channel for more content and stay safe. Bye bye.